Did I ever tell you about the time one doorway derailed my entire campaign and resulted in my players blowing up a country? Greetings gamers, I'm Manto and the dice and I are one. Today I'm telling you all about the time my players went left instead of right and the country they were adventuring in blew up as a result. This story is a great example of how bonkers high level play can be, so let's dive into it. This video is sponsored by Seeds of Wars, more on them later. If there's one theme that I like to bake into all of my campaigns, it's consequences. I always tell my players that they're free to do whatever they want and go absolutely anywhere if they want to, but there will always be consequences to their actions. Now, I rarely mean mechanical consequences like alignment changes or anything like that here. No, instead I mean narrative consequences. If you want to get into a bar fight and break a man's arms, you're not suddenly going to become chaotic evil, but you might find that his husband, the local stable master, refuses to outfit your horses for your upcoming journey. I find that this approach creates a much more nuanced world where it's people's perceptions of the character's actions that matter, not just the alignment that's kind of written on their sheet. But really, it's just because I love giving my players consequences and showing them the fallout of their actions. Now, nowhere was this more extremely felt than the time my players blew up the country they were adventuring in. To understand how they got there, we have to rewind a little bit and get some kind of background for the adventure. My players were adventuring in the nation of Valoroth, and their main goal was to depose the false king Richard Blackthorn and defeat the evil deity Parax the Warmaster. About a year into their campaign, the players ended up in an extra-dimensional maze, built and run by Clavo, the handsome god of tricks, the joke and the jolly jape. After facing the many challenges within the gauntlet, including fighting a T-Rex, making friends with an undead cowboy, and defeating a red dragon, they emerged victorious and were approached by Clavo, who gave them a mighty reward. As their reward, the party could call upon Clavo to carry out a favour for them by saying, "Save me, Clavo, handsome god of tricks, from this boring existence." Of course, the party were really excited to have a favour from an actual god in their back pocket, and there were many times in the course of the campaign that they considered using this favour, but ultimately decided to save it. When I gave my players this reward, I had no idea how or when they would decide to call in the favour, which introduced an element of chaos into every adventure, because at any time I threw something nasty in front of the players, there was a chance they were going to play their god card and get out of jail free. I love this though, because I enjoy not knowing how my players are going to deal with the situation. I set up the obstacles, but I don't give a second thought on how the players are going to figure out the puzzles or get past the obstacles. That's their job. So, about a year later, the players are working their way towards the finale of the campaign and the confrontation between the two big bads of the campaign, the false king Richard Blackthorn and the god Parax. Now, Parax had opened a portal to the Soul Realm above the capital city of Dragonford, and legions of fiends were pouring out into the material plane. The portal was growing, and it wouldn't be long before the material realm was overrun with fiends, and it basically became another layer of hell. Against the ticking clock, the players were trying to infiltrate the False King's palace and open it up from the inside so that allied armies could move into the city. In the sewers beneath the city, I planned out a load of different encounters that would lean into a lot of horror tropes and make the players feel really overwhelmed. But players being players, they managed to bypass almost all of that content, which meant I needed to buy myself some time to figure out kind of what am I doing here? So I did what I always do when I need to buy myself some time with my players. I threw a binary choice at them. Through the years, I found that it's almost always the simple choices that cripple the players the most. If I gave them a choice between 10 paths, they'd just choose one at random. But you throw a simple left or right at them, and they agonise over which is the correct choice. So as they come to the end of one of the corridors and they expect it to lead up to the palace, they find a T-junction. To the right is the stairs that are going to lead up towards their main objective in the end of the campaign, and to the left there is a door with a simple little sign on it that says, "The Black Vaults." In my setting, the Black Vaults were thought to be a repository of magical artifacts that lived beneath the palace. The players had heard of the Black Vaults before, so I knew that they would be immediately intrigued. After all, players are greedy little bitches, and the promise of a horde of high-powered magic items is enough to make even the most goal-orientated player stop in their tracks. Now, my players know that nothing is ever as simple as it seems in my game, so obviously they expected a trap, which they should have. I planned for this door to be some kind of trap, maybe a combat that would tie them up for a while, or maybe just a hole that drops them into a pit they have to navigate out of. That was my plan at least, but as we know, no plan survives contact with the players. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to leave a like below. It tells Senpai YouTube that I am worthy, and it fills me with a sense of validation. I probably shouldn't say anything on the internet fills me. Never mind. Anyway, while I've got you, make sure to subscribe if you're new here. I'm aiming to hit 25,000 subscribers in 2021, and I need your help to do it. Only 20% of you are currently subscribed, so we've got to pump those numbers up. And while you're down there, check out my Patreon for all kinds of extra game aids. You'll find a free sample pack down in the description. Thanks! I love you. Now, instead of just opening the door and meeting whatever fate I decided for them in that moment, the players used some of their magic items. At the time, Alasia, the party Dampier psychic, was carrying an artifact called the Ring of Mazdal. This is a powerful magical artifact that allows a spellcaster to mold magic and change their spells. Mechanically, it allowed Alasia to add, remove, or change a single letter in any spell, like the Grammarian Ring. The players expected the door to be trapped, so Alasia used the ring to cast Make Whole and mutate it to Make Whole. On the spot, I decided that this was too cool of a moment not to reward, so I decided that the spell would rip open a hole in spacetime and connect the door to the real Black Vaults, which were located in Iro, the plane of knowledge in my setting. The players were amazed, obviously, and we ended the session early to allow me some prep time to figure out what's going on in Iro and with the Black Vaults. If you ever come to a natural stopping point like that earlier than you planned, just call the end of the night early. In my case, the players were pumped to head off to the Black Vaults in the following session, so I didn't mind stopping early, and it meant that I could actually take the time over the following week to prepare the content with the time necessary. I knew that several villains throughout the campaign had been wielding weapons said to have been stolen from the Black Vaults, which meant that the bad guys definitely had access to the real place that stored the magic items. So I decided that the bad guys had found a way to break into this extra planar vault and bribe the Guardian there. The players spent a few weeks in the realm of Iro gathering knowledge and eventually came to discover the bad guys had corrupted the Guardian of the Black Vaults, the Titan-sized serpent named Kasan. During the course of the battle with Kasan, a lot of powerful artifacts were deployed. One of the enemies even tried to use the deck of many things on the party, which failed, and then the players ended up with the deck. One day I'll tell you about the session in which they drew 9 cards from the deck in a single combat. They also acquired a lot of other powerful items that would come in handy with their final battle with the big bad evil guy. As they started to thin out the army of UNT that Kasan had with him and kind of turn the tide of the battle, the Serpentine Titan got desperate and armed the Synchrony device, a magical bomb that forced the plane it was detonated in to combine with one of the elemental planes. After arming the bomb, Kasan used another artifact to teleport away, leaving the players alone in the vault with this huge magic bomb that was just ticking away. Now the players had no clue what the bomb was capable of, except for the fact that it was dangerous enough to be in the Black Vaults. And as the seconds started ticking away and they were running out of time, one of the players called out, "Save me, Clavo, handsome god of tricks, from this boring existence." And with a pop, the god of tricks appeared next to them in the fantasy equivalent of a bomb disposal suit. Now the players are smart. They knew that the god of tricks would likely twist their words against them, so they were very careful with the request and asked Clavo to take the bomb into the Soul Realm and drop it as close to Parax as possible. Now with a wry smile, Clavo nodded, dropped his visor and teleported the bomb away. The party was safe. To get out of Iro, the players made a deal with the Realm's Overseer to be sent back in time so they'd return to the material plane moments after they left. And as they emerged from the courtyard of the palace, ready to open the gate, they heard this terrible explosion and felt the earth shake beneath their feet. Now Clavo, to his credit, followed their directions exactly, dropping the Synchrony device in the Soul Realm. But unfortunately, the players had miscalculated. They assumed that Parax would be in the Soul Realm. In reality, he was in the material plane, which meant that to get as close to him as possible, Clavo basically had to drop the bomb in the portal connecting the two planes. The blast leveled part of the city, and the magical explosion caused the tectonic plates to shatter and start shifting, causing violent earthquakes and lava eruptions. This meant that for the final confrontation with the big bad, the players were essentially playing out the destruction of Namek from Dragon Ball Z, as the ground split apart and geysers of lava erupted. It made the final battle so climactic, much more climactic than I ever could have hoped for, and it was all down to the consequences of player action. Even though the party defeated Parax and Richard and won the day, the country of Valoroth was effectively destroyed and turned into a land that was later known as the Shattered Isles. The map went from looking like this at the start of the campaign to looking like this by the time it was over. The party was successful in their quest, but they paid a heavy price for it. I think this story is a great example of how following your gut, being willing to improvise and leaning into the players' zany schemes can result in just some of the most fun you can have in D&D. The players weren't angry with me or disappointed in the series of events because they recognised how their own actions led them to this point. And they were all actually really pumped at how epic the finale of the campaign ended up being, thanks in no small part to the atmosphere of the country kind of ripping itself apart. Anyone that's watched this channel for a while now will know that I love the political, grand scale side of world building, so I'm really pleased that this video is sponsored in part by Seeds of Wars and their new realm management app. Seeds of Wars is a tactical warfare and realm management system that has been designed to be compatible with any medieval fantasy RPG, just like D&D. And it allows you, the game master, to control the broader politics of your world, muster armies, and simulate warfare. Well, Seeds of War is back on Kickstarter, and this time they are funding the release of a web app that automates a lot of the content from that previously released book. You don't need the Seeds of Wars book to use the app, and you can use their pre-made setting or upload your own campaign map, and then define political borders, build factions, and resolve conflicts across your world. This is a great option if you run a complex political world and you're trying to achieve that kind of Song of Ice and Fire or Game of Thrones feel where the wheels are always turning and something is always happening in the larger world. The app will even have automation to add more variety to the world and lower the workload on you as the GM. With this app, you could essentially run a game of diplomacy in the background of your campaign, and then use the results of the battles and the changing political landscape to help build out the world for your players, to help make them feel more like they're adventuring in a living and breathing world filled with real people and real factions. The Kickstarter is running until December the 16th, and you'll find the link in the description below. What's more though, you'll also get 10% off everything on the Seeds of Wars website by using the code Icarus at checkout. So head to the link below and check out the Kickstarter campaign, and thanks again to Seeds of Wars for supporting what I do. I'd really love to hear how your campaigns have been derailed in the best ways possible down below, and if you want to keep watching, why not check out my other Storytime videos which you can find right here. But until next time, happy gaming.